could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning. Welcome back to the channel, Grand Columbia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. Start with the weather. Let's take a look. See, it's a little overcast. It's kind of humid. It's we've been on a, I guess you'd say for here, a heat wave. We hit an all-time high of 87 degrees. Prior to that, the high for Armenia was 83 degrees. So it's a pretty substantial increase, and we've been running 82 to 84 degrees at the peak of the day, say around 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, pretty much every day. So for here, that's hot. Today, I feel a little humidity. Haven't really felt much prior to today, but you know, we're all experiencing it. The Pacific Ocean is heated up 1.6 degrees Celsius, which fuels the El Nino, which hits the northern part of South America and North America. And that's what we're experiencing. That's why you're having a heat wave north of the border. So I do want to show you something pretty spectacular. A few nights ago, I didn't use a good camera on this, but a few nights ago we had what they call a supermoon, and it's closest to the sun at that point, and whatever. But I snapped a picture off my balcony. It was this may not speak to it very well. It's not the best quality, but it was pretty awesome. So I look at this and it triggers a memory of when I actually saw it live, and it was very cool. So for me, it's pretty good. So make a comment, then I'll look at our chat, and then we'll get on with our topics, which today it's all news. I got a bunch of things, and the last couple I think are really interesting. First, the Tuesday coffee meeting that Mark put together for the second meeting this last Tuesday. He said no one showed up. Now, I wasn't planning on going, but then I thought, well, I'll go for the next one too. But then from I'd say Monday to Thursday, I was kind of sick. So I just said to hell that I just stayed home. And then went out Thursday, Friday, yesterday. But prior to that, I just kind of stayed in. And he said no one showed up except himself. So this is why I don't get involved in those things generally, because it's like herding cats. It's everybody wants to do it, but then nobody wants to remember or put in the time or like that. And they depend on one person to carry that weight. Well, that's a Beatles song, right? So that's the reason I don't do it. I've got my hands full, and I only do the things that I actually have control over myself, so I don't have to worry about being disappointed or frustrated or whatever. It's a great idea. I would do it if it were easy, but it's not, and I got my hands full. But he tried. I think he'll probably try another time or two, maybe, but I don't really know. Mm. Reminds me, this is not coffee, but I got tagged on Facebook. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. I've told you that before. I'm not a fan of it because sometimes they'll even suck you in. It's like you just start looking at things, and yeah, I got better things to do. But I got tagged on something, so I said, well, it started out something about coffee. So I click on it and I go and I look, and this guy, he says, where in Colombia can you get a good strong cup of coffee? And I'm thinking, I'm going to comment on this one because what a dumbass question. I mean, I don't mean the guy's a dumbass. I'm just saying that question, it just kind of reflects a lack of information. And I was right there with him some years back. What do you mean by a strong cup of coffee? Do you mean like a real strong taste, like a dark roast? Do you mean strong, like a high caffeine content? I mean, what are you talking about? And those things are kind of opposites. And you get your strongest caffeine with the worst quality coffee because Arabica doesn't carry that much caffeine, but you have other coffee beans that do. So I just, it's like, dude, what do you mean? What are you trying to get at? Do you mean like trucker diner coffee? So it's like a really dark roast. And the thing with the dark roast is all you're tasting is burnt. It's like burnt toast. So that flavor that you're getting, you might like it. I mean, I like charcoal steaks, but it actually takes away the characteristics of the coffee. And it doesn't matter what quality coffee you have almost, with the dark roast, because you're just getting the roast, the burn. And if you want to taste coffee, you're going to taste it to light to medium or medium roast. And here in Colombia, you know that. And then I made a couple other comments because you had some people repeating something that was true 10, 20 years ago, but it's not true anymore. They said, well, you can't get good coffee in Colombia. You can only get the seconds, and all the good coffee is exported. That was true. There was a time that was true. And when I came here the first time 20 some years ago, it was absolutely true. All you could buy was instant for the most part. It was horrible. And I'm thinking, I'm in Colombia and I'm getting like the worst coffee I ever had. It's not true anymore. You can buy more boutique single origin coffees here than you'll ever find anywhere else in the world. Because everybody here is kind of clued in on, there's a market for that. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out since it is coffee time. Let me take a look at our comments here. Let's see. We start off. We've got Juka. Dropped a dime. Thank you very much, Mr. NATO country. And we've also got Mr. Anonymous, Jerry. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I ask, where is it? I ask, where is Robert? Come on, call up that chat. Call up that chat. There we go. Yay, it worked. I asked where is Robert because he sent me something like 30 clips. He was in Costa Rica, and he sent me about 30 clips. And because he held the phone in the correct direction, I'm going to see if I can throw together Robert Visits Costa Rica video, because some of the clips were pretty interesting, actually. And Juka says, greetings from Finland. And we've got John Sawicki. Weren't you in the Watergate hearings? Okay. Morning all from Seattle. I'm getting that thing on the chat again. Good morning from Seattle. Sebastian Quintana from Chicago. How you doing? Tex Blue Jeans. Good morning from Bogota. Hello, Bogota. I'm wondering, do you get offended when I say I don't like Bogota very much? I wonder how the people in Cali feel about me. I mean, does everybody have to like everything? I just kind of curious, because I had somebody comment on that, and it's like we can all have our opinions. We don't have to agree. That would suck, because then we'd all be living in Medellin, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, Medellin's an awesome city. Great place to visit. Get me past 3 days and I'm out of there. Mike, how you doing, Mike? Good morning. And we've got Augustine. Good morning. Haven't been here in a few weeks. I'm glad to see you're doing well. I am. And when I was sick, it was nothing chronic. I have to take this medicine every day, and sometimes it's a really strong medicine. I've had to take it for over 7 years. And it's just one pill. I have to take it every day. And about once a month or so, I mean, there's no routine to it, but it kind of makes me sick as a dog. It's really strong. It gives me a headache, or my head feels like it's compressed in a vice. I run a fever, and I just feel generally like crap. And it's always the same. It's usually maybe a couple days. It ran about 4 days this time. It's just how it is. It's nothing to do with really being sick. It's just this medication. Unfortunately, there's no alternative to it. Coleman, hello from Rio Negro, Colombia. How you doing? Nice area. Good area. I mean, it's sort of Medellin, but it's not. Rumpo del Bailey, again. Sorry I missed you. I really wanted to meet you. Good morning from Gritty Cali. Yeah. Gritty's gritty's a word. I think maybe accurate. Ben Lake. Morning. What do we have here? Neighbor F1 on summer break. Oh, you must mean Formula Racing. I don't really follow it, but kind of like racing. But why is my chat? There we go. Hey. All right, clear. Mike Jarvis, Ben Lake, surfs up. Turtle here. How you doing? How you doing? How's your leg? How's your doctor? How's everything? Somebody just asked me, how do I? It's like a minute before this video started, I think. Somebody said, "Don't call it a video. Call it a podcast." I don't care what you call it. It's Coffee Time Live. But he says, "How do I get a hold of that guy in Bucaramanga who said he wants to have lunch?" I don't think that's quite the way it went, but I sent him your phone number. So, but don't blame me. What do we got here? Nope, doesn't bother me. Okay. John Sawicki was in Cali in the 90s. Too hot. Ladies in the weather. Yeah, that's kind of true. Nah, I probably shouldn't. I'm dying to say something about the ladies here in Armenia. It's kind of rude. Some people would probably be offended, which doesn't really bother me, but yeah, I don't want to be rude today. Some other day. Ask me about the ladies in Armenia. Good morning from Coral Springs, Florida. It's Carlos. Good morning. Okay. Got through the chats. I think that's it. For some reason, I had a whole bunch of people subscribe after last week's video. It was kind of strange. But anyway, let's get on. We're got I think eight news items to cover. Like I say, the last two I find the most interesting. But a lot of you are curious about Armenia, what goes on here, like that. So, so I figured today I'll dedicate some news because I left a few things in the dust with the interview and the topics over the last couple of weeks. So here we go. Animals. 473 species of fauna, animals, have been recovered from illegal trafficking so far in 2023. And they name them. It's like there's mostly it's birds, but then there's 100 so mammals and 100 so reptiles. The interesting thing is a fair amount of these are just local people here in Condillo that we're just surrounded by nature. I mean, if you're in the heart of the city, of Armenia, okay, no, I'm on the edges I'm at the northern border of Armenia, and I'm surrounded by greenery. And so, there's animals here and throughout Condillo. I mean, take 10 steps and you're in nature. So what they found is that there's a lot of people that just live here, been here forever, same house for generations, and they've decided to make pets. There's a bunch of monkeys, because we have monkeys here, where they just, put food out and they just come around, keep eating and eating. Next thing you know, they've got themselves a household pet. And, some birds and things like that. You also have, not smugglers, poachers that come in and try to get some of the rare animals. Most of the animals here are somewhat rare in a world scheme of things, but for here, pretty common. So they love animals here. It's, people say, well, what about the dogs? Can I get an apartment? Every place pretty much will let you have a dog. Restaurants let you bring the dogs in, and the dogs are amazingly well behaved, so it doesn't really bother anybody. People just love animals here and tend to take good care of them, with some exceptions, of course. Nothing's ever 100%. So, I found that kind of an interesting news thing. Now, the next one, it's good to know that people are looking out, because food quality is another topic. There are rules and regulations here, and people that visit other places in South America think that it's like the Wild West and there's no rules. Well, here's one that I had personal experience in a couple of years ago. This brand here, this is Arepa Choclo, and Choclo is a Swedish kind of cornmeal. And depending on how they make it, they can be ultra delicious. One of my favorite things here, actually. And I make them myself in my own kitchen sometimes. But they were caught adding preservatives. Now, the preservatives are nothing unusual. But they're not permitted to do it. Plus, they falsified their label because they didn't report those things. And they pay attention to those, so they're in big trouble. They were shut down, and I don't know. I imagine they'll come out of it, maybe not. But they were caught, and the immediate punishment was to shut them down, and there was no delay and no payoffs or anything. So that's pretty cool. But the question comes out, why did they add these extra preservatives and take that kind of risk? Well, people here don't want a lot of preservatives, so if they put it on the label, they'd probably see their sales drop. Okay. However, why do it? Well, a couple of years ago, I got my favorite brand of chocolate out of the supermarket. The next morning, I opened it up and I'm toasting it up and put a little butter on it and have it with your coffee. It's so delicious. It's kind of like a cornbread, not as sweet, but it's a lot like a cornbread. Anyway, I pull this thing out. I thought about it. It's like I hadn't had one in a while. I was really looking forward to it. And it's got mold all over it. And I look at the sell-by date, and it's still within the sell-by date. They're very moist, and they're prone to going bad. I mean, when you make them, you gotta do them up right away. And so, adding extra preservatives beyond that minimum amount allowed, I could see why. It's like, what are we doing? People are complaining because you're getting mold on these things, and how do we do that? Well, why don't we just add a little more preservative to it? I'm not saying they should do that. I'm saying I can understand where that comes from, because these things, they don't shelve very well. They definitely have to be refrigerated. They don't last long. So if you buy these things, buy them off the street, make them yourself. And if you do buy it out of the store, you buy a small pack, maybe 4. You can get 4, you can get 10, you can get 20. Buy a small pack, because they're not going to stay good for very long. Okay, what's next? All right, here we have, this is kind of cool, from another level. Students excel in technology, science, and bilingualism, which they actually mean English, for their future. There is a big push here in Armenia for science, technology, and English. Right now, they've got 300 and some students directly in this particular program of schools all over Armenia. And it's a pretty awesome thing. I'm very happy to see that. And I'm happy to see that they're putting money into something like that. And I especially like that, they're putting some emphasis on English, because English is the world language for commerce. And if you're ever going to improve your economy, you really want to have more people speaking that language. So that's pretty cool. All right. Libby, good morning. Everybody else here. John Sawicki, real people, real experiences, no BS. People like that. Like your last guest. Yeah, it was Turtle, and that was really good information. Later he said, I forgot this, I forgot that. I don't think I did very well. Dude, you did awesome. You did awesome. It was great. I was eating it up. I mean, that was good information. All right, another headline. We're getting close to the good ones. The tranquility of the community is affected by the noise and lack of order from repair shops. Now, the repair shops they're talking about are not actual repair shops. They're just people going in business making money, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. And you can do that. You don't necessarily have to be permitted. People just kind of ignore it. But there's been an explosion of motorcycles in Armenia. There's 87,000 vehicles on the road right now in Armenia, registered in Armenia. Most of those are motorcycles. And a good portion, what I'm told, maybe as much as half of the motorcycles are being driven around without registration or insurance. Anyway, so there's a huge demand on repairing motorcycles. You have to understand, this has never been a car culture, motorcycle culture. This is relatively new phenomenon. So they didn't grow up with dad putting them on their knee, steering the car, or motorcycle in the driveway and you ride with it. Most of the people who have cars and have motorcycles are really unfamiliar with them. They don't know the first thing about what makes them run, how they run. They just know put gas in it. So when they break, because they didn't know how to take care of it, they need it repaired. Well, I need some money. I know how to fix motorcycles. Therefore, I am a repair shop. But as you see in this picture, they've actually cordoned off. This wasn't the police. You see those poles there. They're actually commandeering the right lane of this road for their motorcycle repair shop. They just, all right, we're just going to use the road because we don't have enough space. And this has been happening all over for other things too. I tell you, I hate it when I have to drive through Armenia. Sometimes I do. I have to go through. And you want to stay in the left lane because the right lane is constantly going to be a stop, a traffic jam, plugged up, because you have all of these different things going on, and you just need to be in the left lane to get by everything. Well, here you've got neighbors that are complaining about this situation because they're making noise, they're running through intersections, there's little accidents happening, they're out revving up the things and making all kinds of noise, and people are getting pretty annoyed with it. So they've announced that they're going to start cracking down on the technically illegal shops. Now, in one sense, I completely get it. If I lived in that neighborhood, it would probably get under my skin a little too. But and it causes traffic jams. On the other part of it is one of the things I really like about Colombia and always here in Armenia is it's kind of always been like a live and let live. Unless you're, causing people problems, just do whatever you need to do. Well, in this case, they're causing people problems, so, the local government's, apparently going to step in. First step is they make these announcements, they warn everybody, and hopefully they kind of clean up their act. But a lot of them won't, and it's going to require, some sort of action. So there's that. Okay, next. If you live here, or you're going to be visiting here, this is kind of cool. In September, the Candio Cafe Sabor flavor arrives in Armenia with exquisite and new recipes. It's a big event. It will be held at the Parque de la Vida, the park right in the north of Fundadoras, and you go in there and you'll be able to sample all kinds of things. They've got 5 general categories. Wait a minute, let me look. Yeah. Ministry of Tourism. The gastronomic fair will take place, Parque de la Vida, patios Candianos, and will be, it's like a, what do you call it? Pavilion kind of area. Be on September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. It's expected there'll be a contest. Will position the Department of Candio as a high-value gastronomic destination. Some of the food traditionally in Candio, like go back some hundreds of years, is somewhat unique to Candio. There was a time when it was unique to Candio, and one of my favorite restaurants specializes in Candio cuisine. It's different. It kind of reminds me of French cooking in a way. It's all about sauces and big explosive flavor sauces. So that'll be pretty cool. All right, let's see. We got a couple more. Here's one kind of like with the motos. It's about parking. Again, this is related. People are just parking everywhere. It's I've always said one of the huge issues of driving in Armenia is when you get to where you're going, you got no place to park, and you end up either parking illegally, driving around the block 50 times, parking far away, maybe far enough away that you end up taking a taxi to where you're going. Parking can be a real problem, except for certain destinations. Like if you're going to the mall, they've got garage parking, some things like that. But it's a real issue, and Armenia is fast becoming traffic jam city certain times of the day, and it's not fun for anyone. And some of the parking that you see is it's just crazy. People would just get out of their car fully in a lane, walk away for 20 minutes while they do something, and nobody, cars backed up, 30 cars backed up trying to squeeze into the other lane. It's definitely an issue. All right, the last two. Now I think these are the most interesting. Let me look here. Now you can see lots of new places where they sell motorcycles in Cuenca. Even Corral have them. I do not like them. They're dangerous. My brother died riding one, and they're so noisy. Well, they're only noisy if people make them noisy. Motorcycles can be dangerous. I mean, I had motorcycles my entire life. People say, well, do you miss anything from leaving the U.S.? The first thing comes to mind is I had to sell my motorcycle. And that was that was my escape. I would go and ride that thing on the weekends. When I was living in North Carolina, I'd ride down to Charleston, South Carolina, and have a seafood dinner, ride back that night or the next day. I could take that bike out and ride 8 hours and get off it and feel fresh, and had no problem. But when you're getting into the cities where all these motorcycles are just acting like the fool, it can become very dangerous. And the only deaths here on vehicles is motorcycles, and there's probably one a week anyway. All right, on to my topic. Well, one of the next two.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Oh my God!
For my own personal reason, I love following this story. All right, so I announced before Petro's son was accused of stealing money from a campaign, or originally just from stealing money. Well, it turns out that he stole money for the campaign for his father, but the source of the money were the drug cartels out of Mexico. So they gave him a whole bunch of money, and it was a lot of money, like 1,000 million pesos, something like that. They gave him a crap load of money, and he took that money, put some into his father's campaign. He didn't actually steal it from the campaign. He just kept some of it. And a lot of that money went to that vote buying on the coast that I talked about a few weeks back. He's admitted to this now. They've caught him. He's admitted to not everything, but quite a few things. And this is all getting kind of uncovered. Of course, his father's saying, well, I don't, he's a grown man. I don't control what my son does, and I can't help that he put money into my campaign. but it'd be interesting to see where this goes. It was fascinating to read some of the comments on this article from local people. Here in Armenia, it was few and far between the people that actually voted for this guy. Most of his votes either came out of Bogota or they came from the coast, where turns out he was buying a lot of votes. I have my weekly YouTube message that the stream is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming, but yes, it is. I see it right here. Anyhow, all right. So, yeah, he's kind of, yeah, there's kind of a repeat here. We have a crime family who, God knows how you reach the heights of president. Well, actually, we know now. You know, it's easy to buy votes here. This last one, I wanted to end with this story because it caused me to think a lot. May or may not do the same for you, but I found it kind of fascinating. I wasn't the least bit surprised, but maybe to the extent of it. So let me start with the original story. This guy, alleged thief, was murdered in Armenia. His perpetrator was released. Well, how did that happen? Well, the story is this guy, picture on the right there, took a gun, held it to this guy's head. I'm guessing it turned out there were no bullets, but anyway, held it to this guy's head, stole his cell phone, and took off. Well, this guy was really pissed off about it. So he grabbed the equivalent of a hunting knife and tracked this guy down. And he found him. And he stabbed him in the neck. And he took back his cell phone. And he let him bleed out. Okay. So the question is that self-defense? Obviously, it's not self-defense. Under North American law, under Colombian law, that's not self-defense. However, he claimed self-defense, and the police looked at the situation, and there were a couple witnesses apparently who vouched for his story. And the feeling here is, if you're a criminal, you deserve what you get. And there's no sympathy for criminals. And the police are kind of feeling the same way. And if this guy didn't want to get stabbed in the neck and killed, maybe he shouldn't have held somebody up. So let me show you what I found kind of interesting. I'm going to read some of the comments on this news story. They're translated. It may not be the best translation. Whoop. Where is it? Oh, no, where is it? Here? Yeah, okay. From Dolly. Total mind in agreement. My mind is in total agreement, since for these people there is no law. From Dan. In a lawless and corrupt world, acting on your own is the most appropriate thing. From Laura. Unfortunately, it's time to defend ourselves and be a little more in solidarity with the people we see who are in danger. The union makes the strength. Octavio. As the facts are told, it's not a legitimate defense, but revenge. But sometimes justice is more important than law. Rogelio. Unfortunately, from any angle, but if we don't unite to defend ourselves, every day that passes, crime gains more space in society. I agree with the self-defense. I not only found these comments fascinating, but I went through, there were 283 comments. I found one comment that found this whole situation wrong. Everyone supported the police action. Everyone supported this guy. According to what they said, he was a criminal. He needed to be stopped. This guy did everybody a favor. He was attacked. And some said, maybe he was worried that the guy would return. It wasn't that at all. It was revenge. But, there's a certain amount of justification, taking place. But of the 283 comments, 282 were in support of this situation. And I just kind of found it fascinating. And it goes to the mentality. I've showed a couple clips here, over the past few years, where some guy will try to rob a woman, on the street. And next thing you know, you got 30 people surrounding him, giving him a beatdown. And if the police come, they just stand and watch because they feel you want to try to steal, you're going to get what you get. That could be my grandmother you just attacked. And, there'll be, and that's justice here. Now, I don't really see mobs going after somebody who somebody said did something. It's always in a situation where people were witness to something happening. I think mobs going after would probably be a step further than what I would sense would happen here, because there is a sense of justice here, and mistakes can be made, and I think people are absolutely clear on that. But in this particular case, it was known what this guy did, and that's the result. Maybe that helps keep crime down. I don't know. I'm curious to know what you guys think about that. How many of you would be outraged that the police let him go? Because clearly, yeah, okay, he wanted his cell phone back, but he stabbed him in the neck, and the guy bled out. It was clearly revenge. And, it was an act of vigilantism. And, so I'm curious to know what you think. Personally, in this society, I get it. I get what they're doing. And those things can get out of hand. And I know you have to tread carefully on that because you don't want to throw the law out the window. But as I read through these comments, people were keenly aware of the law and didn't piss on the law. They just were more focused on what they felt it was justice. So let me know what you think. All right, I got some comments here. 2 billion pesos. Yeah, but in dollars, what is it? 2 billion was 1,000 million. I think the equivalent of $500 million plus or minus. Yeah, that could be. It was a lot of money. What's the motivation for going into politics if you can't get rich? Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of politicians that would agree with you. Motivation should be to serve the people, but I get your point. All right, where's my... All right, that chat completely quit working, so I can't post up anymore. Ben Lake says, justice. Mike, sounds like good justice to me. Yeah, I kind of have to agree. The police were on it really quick. They say, well, police never show up. Well, they were on it pretty quick. And most of these things that, these reports that I read, police are like minutes behind. It's pretty damn good turnaround. They say police are not there when you need them. Well, usually not. I mean, you can't have that many police, but I've lived in places where on a good day, it might be a half an hour to get a cop to show up. So, I don't know. Sorry, my math was off. $500,000 you received. $500,000 is not pocket change here. Here in Colombia, that is a lot of money. 1,000 million pesos. Holy crap. And this is just drug money handed to a guy. Now, if you got 1,000 million pesos, how many votes could you buy for that? Because from what I understand, they were buying votes for like 100,000 pesos, 30 bucks, 25 to $30. So, no, that's a lot of money. I'm not going to share what I think about Prime on any social media. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Obviously, it doesn't really bother me. I'd like to speak my mind. I just don't want to talk about Armenian women. All right. Do we have any questions? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Make it official. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. Okay. I think when this was, it's all in the green again. I think when it was throttled down, I was talking about that story where somebody got, and YouTube doesn't like certain words that I used, and I think they throttled me. I think it's an automatic thing. Anyway, because I know YouTubers are very careful about certain words that they use, and anyway, YouTube can't do much more to me than they've already done. Colombia GDP is $300 billion. We're not talking about GDP. We're talking about a drug cartel giving the son of a presidential candidate suitcases full of money. And 1,000 million pesos is a crap ton of money to buy votes and to put the rest into the campaign and also in his pockets. It's a lot. Is Colombia going to win versus Jamaica? I have no idea. I don't follow it. I know everybody's all excited about football, soccer, because Colombia teams are doing really well. But I don't know. When I was in high school, we had swimming, we had soccer, we had tennis, we had no football, like real football. And I hated that. We had baseball. This was a small country school out in the middle of nowhere. Beautiful Olympic-sized pool, but no football. And it was not a wealthy community either. But when they built this school back right after World War II, things were pretty cheap from what I understand. Because I always wondered how this school, with such a spectacular building and this big swimming pool, it's like, how would this little community, like we had, it used to be a running joke, my graduating class, there were 69 people, so to give you an idea of the class sizes, they were not very big. And, how could it afford such extravagance? Well, back when they made it, it wasn't expensive. It was cheap to do these things. But anyway, I hated it in gym class. We'd have to go out for soccer. I just hated it. I didn't, it's like, why do I want to go out and run back and forth and back and forth? I like tennis, but there was a point to it. I'm chasing the ball and I get an immediate payback. With soccer, you just kind of running back and forth and back and forth. And, good portion of the time, the ball never even comes near you. So, I was a kid and it just bored me to death. So to watch soccer, oh my God, I'd rather watch a lacrosse game. There's a lot more action in lacrosse. Coming from upstate New York, that's a pretty popular sport even today. So, so I don't follow soccer at all. I don't even follow football anymore except for Buffalo Bills. I used to catch everything. Colombia Gig Man, good morning from San Jose, Costa Rica airport. So you're going back home. I was wondering where you were. Send more clips if you have them. Some of those are quite interesting. There's a few of them that is why I decided I'm going to see if I can throw this together as a video. Problem is, you sent me all of these things and you sent them through WhatsApp. And WhatsApp erased whatever file name they were and whatever sequence that was. And because WhatsApp doesn't care. There's a lot of duplicate file names. So if you posted at one time 6 video clips, all 6 would get the same file name. So you were posting mostly in batches. So out of the 30 or so clips you sent me, I think there are only like 5 file names. So I didn't realize at first what was going on, and I was just deleting portions of the file name just to get them drawn in. Well, what I ended up with is nothing's in sequence anymore. And there's enough clips there and a somewhat necessity to be in sequence. It's going to take me a couple hours just to kind of sort that out. Then once I do that, the video will go fast. There won't be hardly any editing needed. You pretty much, you do it the smart way now. You hold the phone right, and you take the clip of what's interesting, you say what you have to say, and you turn it back off. That's the way to do it. What level of cell phone plans are available? Is it unlimited, or do you pay for, all right, it's covering up the words, pay for, what's that? Each gigabyte. Sorry about that. Well, you can buy plans that will have more data than you can ever use, particularly since everywhere you go has Wi-Fi. And so if you go to certain places, you'll have Wi-Fi wherever you're living. And you go to the park, there's Wi-Fi. You go to coffee shops, there's always Wi-Fi. So if you frequent certain places, it'll just automatically kick to Wi-Fi when you walk in the door. So you don't need as much as you would think. In the US, years ago, they had plans that were unlimited. They don't really anymore because they play this stupid game that you reach a certain threshold and they throttle you down to the point where it's so slow, it's almost unusable. They still call it unlimited because you can still use that. It's just barely usable and kind of sleazy. I hate that. Here, I don't know if they do that, but I do know that I have the minimum Wi-Fi. I'm on my phone constantly when I'm out and about doing things because I get a lot of emails and stuff from you guys. And I always look to see if it's something I need to act on right away, because sometimes it is. Somebody's flying into town this afternoon and can you help me out, kind of thing. So I'm always looking at it no matter where I am. So I use a fair amount of phone service. I use the minimum, which is I think 3 gigabytes, and I never run out. I've never run out. So the plans are cheap. You can get more than what you need. I use Movistar. Claro is probably up there equivalent. It kind of depends. Flip a coin. I have particular reasons that Movistar works better for me, because it depends on where you tend to go, what cities you're in, that kind of thing is how those work. And here in Colombia, most cell phones you can actually get 2 SIM cards. So if you frequent an area that's better service with Claro, you can get a SIM for that. And if Movistar is better in another area, you can get a second SIM card, put that in your phone, just operate on wherever you are. So that's kind of cool. Claro, they have different plans and unlimited. Google, Colombia, cell phone companies. Yeah, the 3 biggies are Tigo, probably the most inexpensive, but the least coverage, but again, depending on where you live. In Manizales, Tigo's big. So you got Tigo, Movistar, and Claro. Now, if you're coming from Ecuador and you say, well, I got Movistar in Ecuador, so I just continue it when I get to Colombia. Same name, same logos, 2 separate companies. They are not related. And so you cannot continue your plan from there here, unless you're on a visit, of course. But if you move here, you'll have to go register as a new user. That really surprised me. Is it safe to rent a car in Colombia, particularly in the coffee region? I'm referring both to accidents, personal safety from thieves, and abuse from police, cops stopping you for bribes. All those things can happen in Colombia in general, depending on where. Here, it's pretty much unheard of here. I've never run into an issue like that. I never worry about it. I've been through quite a few police stops. They have police checks. And as soon as I start talking, they'll usually start laughing because they realize I'm a foreigner. But accidents, driving in a city is a fool's game. I highly recommend you don't do it. Don't rent a car to do that. But if you're talking about going places where it might be inconvenient for taxi, for example, maybe you want to see the hot springs, the other side of Pereira. The only way to get out there is by a private car, and usually it'll be a Jeep. But you can rent yourself a little car, and you can drive out there. And when you come back, the chances of catching something back, it might be a little awkward. If it's a public Jeep, it might be with 10 other people. It might be more convenient to have a car, but for the most part, you're better served with a few exceptional situations. You're better served just take buses and taxis. You have no worries. If something happens, you just walk away. I think you're way better doing it that way. But accidents in the city, yeah, probably more of a possibility. As far as carjackers and things like, no, I've never hear of that. Well, I mean, anything's possible. I never hear of that. It's true, my Movistar works better than my wife's Tigo in some places, in other places it's the opposite. Exactly. I have an Exit. Of course it's true. I wouldn't lie to you. I have an Exido SIM and a Claro SIM. Exido works great in my neighborhood. When traveling, Claro has reception out in the country where the others do not. Exactly. Tigo throttles, but they probably all do. Yeah, I honestly don't know because I never reached those limits. And the thing is, there's like 8 tiers above mine. I have the lowest tier in Movistar, and I've never run out. And like I say, I'm a frequent user. I'm constantly, if I'm out, I'm playing YouTube for information. Streaming uses a lot of information. I don't concern myself with it. I just do whatever I need to do because I've never run out. Ronald, I've rented cars 5 times in Armenia for a month or more with no issues. Tex Blue Jean, no issues renting cars. Been doing it for 10 years. When I need, I rent one. Yeah, I have to agree. Rented a car, had no issues. All of a sudden, they just popped up again. All right. Yeah, and I can vouch for that. My personal experience, and I'm looking at the news every week. Maybe not every day, but every week I kind of look at the news because of this. See what's going on out there. Sometimes I'll dig deeper, start researching, look at other sources for things. I've looked at cars and accidents and like that. And it's a safe area. It's not a concern. But again, if you're driving your car through Armenia or Pereira or something, I mean, don't say I didn't warn you. It's a stupid idea. There's no place to park. So I mean, if you have to for some reason, okay, but you kind of really want to plan around it. Almost like find parking outside of the city, put your car there, and then take a taxi to where you want to go in town. And sitting in traffic, most of the cars are standard shift. You can get automatic. but most are standard shift. And just being stuck in traffic and having to move that clutch up and down and up and down and shift in, you know, from first to second to first, it gets really old. I mean, some of these traffic jams can go on for an hour. Particularly in Pineda, I've been stuck in some ugly traffic. I try to get there first thing in the morning if I have to go, and I don't, except to go to the visa office, I don't go to Parade at all, but there's a part of it, if I'm going to PriceSmart, they have to cut through part of Parade to get to it. And then that particular area can get pretty jammed up. So if I'm going to go to PriceSmart, I'm going to try to leave here about 8 in the morning and kind of avoid the noon traffic. So why put yourself through that? If you're in a taxi, first of all, you can drive like the fool and get you through it a lot quicker than you do it yourself because you're worried about having an accident and, you know, paying deductibles or whatever, depending on what coverage you have. Now, you want to watch that too. Some of the rental companies include full coverage. Others may not, or sometimes they will as a special, and other times that same company won't. So you need to ask about that so you're at least aware that you have minimum coverage, you know, when you're driving the car, or if you have full coverage. And you wouldn't know those things. And there's a lot of things in this world that until you learn more about a particular society, it's hard to make good judgments on some things. And that's why, I try to, without beating a dead horse, I try to give you good overall information. Like when I talked about banking and don't do banking, I was talking to people that are newly arrived here in their first year. There's a crap load of reasons. I don't really want to, spout off all those reasons in a particular moment. Pretty boring, but I'm giving you that advice because it's based on some really good reasons. And when I say, unless you have a need for a car, don't bother. Because how easy is it to grab a taxi and for $1.50, I can eliminate, in Armenia, I can drive across town, for a couple dollars and not have to worry about any of that stuff. It's hard to beat. So, we come from a culture where having a car is like indispensable. It's not like that here. It's very easy to live without a car. It's easier to live without a car in most situations. Yeah, manual and traffic sucks. It sure does. It sure does, particularly depending on what kind of car you get, because, all clutches are not built the same. All right, what time is it? Well, we've run the hour. We did real good. Thank you all for replying about rental. I would only rent to go sightseeing where taxis and buses aren't practical. I had a tire stolen while parked. Stopped by cops for bribe and thieves in Venezuela. Well, I mean, come on. Of course you did. Why are you in Venezuela? You don't even want to be there right now. They love, particularly if you're from the USA, it's almost a guarantee arrest for spying. It's England, you might get a pass. France, they look the other way. I've got a friend who's a reporter in France. He's now an independent reporter, and he went and spent some time in Venezuela. Does your visa lady handle applications for citizenship? I think I'm ready. Yeah, of course she does. She's already talking to me about mine. I have decided I will go for the citizenship. As I get closer and have to provide some information and do some things, I will certainly put that together and give you that information. Venezuela was 25 years ago. I'm sure it's worse now. Yeah, well, in 25 years ago in Colombia, it was a nightmare. All of those things you mentioned would happen even in this area. excuse me, 25 years ago, the FARC existed in this area, which is hard to believe now. They're so far away from here or having any impact here. They're not even a conversation topic anymore. All right. We're going to end it here. Got some donations. Thank you, Juka. Thank you, Jerry. I certainly appreciate it. I've got a number of new subscribers here. Interesting. Edward Funk, Alan Lister, Kane Madden 55, Ben Newman, Bob Green. You guys are on. Welcome. Thank you. And we're going to call it here. Appreciate you guys. I would love to get some feedback, maybe comment below the video once I turn this off. What you think about that story of vengeance or self-defense. It really got me thinking. I probably spent an hour and a half contemplating this. Anyway, see you next week.